Well, it's time to put the Eternabond tape on the front joint where the roof meets the front cap. As you can see, I have the vinyl trim insert put in there. I have it caulked on the front and the back of the trim itself. Of course, it's still not 100% watertight because there's a possibility, there's a potential for water to get inside this trim piece, going behind it and go down into the screw holes. However, there's butyl tape underneath, as you can see from the butyl tape pushing out in a few spots. But before I do that, the Eternabond tape sticks real good to this rubber, but the fiberglass front, the fiberglass cap itself is really slick, really smooth. I looked on the Eternabond website, and their instructions say for PVC, to apply Eternabond to PVC, you should scuff it up with like a Scotch-Brite pad to give it something to grip to. They don't say anything about fiberglass, but just to be on the safe side, I'm going to hit it with some 36 grit sandpaper and give it something to grip to. Just slightly, just a little bit. I'm not going to dig into it. I laid down the piece of Eternabond tape with the backing still on it to give myself a reference point exactly how far out it's going to go. I'm not going to go all the way out this far with the scuffing. I'm just going to go, a half inch or so to the edge with the scuffing. But since this is the front, and this will be getting air pressure and any debris and water, anything that's going to be pushing right on that front seal, I want to make sure that it gets a good grip on the front cap. So I'm going to rough it up a little bit. I figure it couldn't wait. Above the awning topper, I couldn't use the drill with the sanding disc because, of course, it's a little big to fit in this tiny little space. So I used some more of the plumber's sandpaper. Got in there and scuffed it up a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's scratched. It's scratched up ever so slightly inside there. That'll work. Just enough to give the Eternabond tape a little better grippage. Now to clean that all out, blow it all out, and get started with the tape. Before I got started with the Eternabond tape, I ran a bead of caulk all along underneath the awning rail just to keep any water from blowing up underneath. And I did that underneath the awning all the way. Before I put the awning in, I did that because it was just easier. And it goes all the way to the front of the RV. And here at the end of the RV, where the awning rail ends before the trim does, I put a little of that M1 caulking in there. Of course, it's all getting covered with the Eternabond tape, but it's always good to have a backup. I'm going to try to show you what I'm doing here. Putting the tape along just the top edge of the awning rail here, and then pressing it in above the awning rail, pressing it in over the top of the trim insert, pressing it in over the top of the trim itself, and then smoothing it up the transition, the roofing piece here. I'll show you here what I do. I pull it back 6 or 8 inches, and then I line up the bottom edge as best as I can with the very top lip of the awning rail, just a half a millimeter or so behind it. I don't want to get into the awning rail because eventually I'm going to change the awning fabric. So I press it down onto the top of the awning rail with my finger, and then I use the spline tool, this green spline tool. You can pick this up at any hardware store or Walmart, and I press it into the channel under the trim insert, and then I press it in above the insert with the spline tool, and then kind of smooth it out with my fingers to get it started here on the top, and then press it in along the top of the trim itself. And then you notice I'm holding this end back to keep any air bubbles from forming underneath it here. And some already did. There we go. Let's pull that out a little bit. Tighten that up just a skosh. There we go. And then I work this into the roof. And then I use my little homemade roller gadget to smooth it all out. Make sure I get a good, solid, firm pressure on here. And then I do the same thing all over again, moving down the line. And all the way down the line to the front where I started. And I don't have terribly far to go anymore. So that's where I am at right now. Now I've come to the end of the trim piece here, and rather than put a normal end cap in here, since I'm covering it with the Web Seal Eternabond tape, I've trimmed the end down, tapered it down just a little bit, cut the wings off the side. These are the parts that go down into the channel in here. What that allows it to do is smash out a little flatter on the end. See how that goes? It smashes out a little flatter. I did the same thing to this one, however there's a screw right here. I'm going to run the tape from the edge of this paint here, from the edge of the blue paint, right up, and we'll see how it curves here. This should be interesting. I'm going to run it up here and try to turn it and go up, and then go up and over the top. I'm almost to the end, so we'll see how it works.